All right, NYB community, thank you so much for coming back. Episode 173 of the Minding Your Business podcast. Woo! We're back. We keep going. We keep the train moving down the tracks. Entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. I'm your host, Champ Ron. We're here on Tuesday, July the 14th of 2020. Hope you're doing well and everything is going the way that you'd like for it to go. Subscribe, 5 star on Apple or wherever you get your podcast. That helps us continue to grow the community. Shout out to everybody that's watching this on YouTube, everybody that's on Facebook. Let's see, where else are you guys at? You're at Spreaker, you're at SoundCloud. You guys find us just about everywhere. iHeartRadio, Deezer. I get people emailing me about Deezer. Like, what the hell is Deezer? But I guess it's something out there where you find us. So wherever you find us at, of course, Spotify and everywhere else. Thank you guys so much. You can always check us out, themybpodcast.com. I'm excited about today's guest. Yes, all the way from Hawaii. Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite vacation spots. Can't go right now, I guess. Everybody's shutting everything down and that sort of thing. But we have Lane Kawaoka. Did I say that right?
Yeah, close enough. Yeah.
Close enough. I don't want to be close enough, man. I want to be good. I want to be on point. So help me get on point, Lane.
Kawaoka. Yeah.
Kawaoka. God, it's the last syllable. Good Greek. Lane Kawaoka is with us with Simple Passive Cash Flow. That's simplepassivecashflow.com. Lane, how are you, sir?
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Aloha, everybody.
Yeah, and Lane, of course, has his podcast, Simple Passive Cash Flow, the podcast, which you should also subscribe to wherever you get your podcast. Make sure that you go out and subscribe. Do that right now as you're listening. Go in and subscribe. Leave a 5 star positive comment, and let Lane know you heard him right here on the Mind Your Business podcast. So Lane, let's jump right into it, my man. A lot going on, so a lot for us to touch on. But first, let's make sure everybody knows exactly who you are. So tell us about you and your background and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so today I own 3,500 rental units, apartments and mobile home parks. But I started investing back in 2009 with a home that I bought to live in. A little bit of my background, I was kind of told, like a lot of people, to go to school, get a good job, be a little boy. And I guess because I was good at math and science, I became an engineer. So worked my job for a couple years there, and it sucked, right? I mean, what new career job doesn't suck, right?
Right. Exactly. All of them.
So I was, again, on that financial linear path. Everybody says to go get your house to live in. So that's what I did. But because I was never home, because I was traveling all the time for work, I rented it out. And, that was a $350,000 house.
Wow.
It was, the rents were $2,200 a month, and my mortgage was $1,600 a month. And to a young 20-something-year-old kid, that was a lot of beer money
Sure.
back
Yeah, it
then.
was.
And I was like, wow, I got to keep doing this again and again. This is my ticket out of the rat race so I can
There you
fire my
go.
boss.
Right.
So, that first rental, is an A-class rental in Seattle, Washington, really not a
Yes.
good cash flow market. I
Yeah.
didn't know anything about the rent to value ratio, 50% rule, all these things. I just bought it, and it kind of worked, and I kind of tweaked my strategy from there on out and just kept on picking up more rentals over time.
There you go. And so then your background, you were an engineer. So you got your degree in engineering, and of course, my dad is a civil engineer. So we're kind of close there. Although he works for the University of Memphis here, so he's always been in the workforce. But so you leave that career to go into real estate. What was that like? Because a lot of people that are listening to this, they aspire to do that, right, Lane? They're at work right now. And they're hoping to transition to another industry where they can have ownership and, like I say, buy back their time and things like that. So, what was that transition like for you as you're going through a very, kind of high level professional career to full time in the real estate?
Yeah, I mean, it took me 10 years to do it. And I'm not one of those guys to like go after your dreams and passions. I'm like, get your cash flow up to a certain level that actually replaces your daytime income. And a lot of my clients are doctors, lawyers, engineers, guys making over 100 grand a year.
Yeah.
And that advice I think is true for those that folk, because your highest and best use is at your day job, right?
Sure.
If you're making 50 grand or less, yeah, maybe you should go jump off the plank and go after it, right? Because you're not
Right.
getting paid very much, bro. Like your
Right.
highest and best use is probably doing your own thing. But
Yeah.
for especially for like a doctor getting paid 350, 500 grand a year, yeah, you get in that surgery and you do your thing, right? That's
Right.
and invest passively.
Right. There
That
you
was
go.
that was the operating procedure for the first 10 years. Like I just
Yeah.
went to work, shut up, and did my job and saved my money. I was a pretty good saver,
Okay.
saved 30 to 50 grand plus a year. And I
Wow.
was kind of on a track to buy, on average, that period, like a rental property a year,
Yeah.
$100,000 property that you put 20, 30 grand down.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so, Lane, let's get into this because there's certainly that group of people that are high level professionals. You work with a lot of those folks. Let's compare that and contrast it with some of the folks that are more hourly or maybe lower salary. So, someone that's listening to this that's earning 60, 50, $60,000 a year, $40,000 a year, or maybe they're by the hour, maybe they're $15 an hour. How would those folks get involved in the real estate, or should they at this point? Maybe there's a process that they should follow. Yeah, what would you recommend for those folks?
Bro, I don't know, man. I mean, look, I'm a
Right,
guy. I'm not gonna give women advice. Like I had a good paying job and I just saved it over
yeah,
the years, right? Like,
right,
this is real estate investing. Unless you got money, you can't invest. You got a money problem and you got to
yeah,
make money.
sure,
So first thing, maybe go get a job, right? Go get an education. Maybe get a little bit higher paying job so you can net and save more to put to investments. One thing I can say is, like, don't go after like these BS like education programs. Like there's so many of them
yes,
out there. You
there is.
like 10, 20, 30, 50 grand is what they charge. Like, spend that money on your first rental property.
Right. Yeah, I never understood that. These guys that just pop up and they're charging, 30 grand to just to tell you that you got to spend then another 20 grand for their other course. So all they're doing is just trying to upsell courses, and oftentimes it's not practical. I'll admit I got by one, although not at that price lane, but I got for about 3,000 with a guy that had a course, and really all his course was just an hour then to tell me I need to get the next course. It's like, damn
Hey
it.
man, it works on the best of us, myself included. I mean, and not to say that the college educated guys aren't that smart, but there's a whole lot of people who they go off hope and dreams, right?
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
and that's the people that they're targeting, which are like the vulnerable and the people who are kind of down in their luck. They don't have a college degree. They're looking at their 30, 40K a year job, and that's that they sell this hope and dream package.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Exactly. And so, what are your thoughts too, Lane, on, I have people, from right here from the MYB community who ask me about, residential, I guess, single family homes versus, kind of multifamily apartments, right? And I know I've listened to, obviously, in your podcast, you've spoken on both at various times in various episodes, but how do you compare and contrast those as investments, particularly now, as, you have, disruption with the coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, so let's kind of set the record straight with like multifamily. You hear about like multiple roofs, more diversification, more quantities of scale.
Sure.
It's all true, and yeah, overall it's probably better. But if your net worth is at a certain point where, and especially if your experience level is just getting started, stick with a single family home,
Sure.
straight up.
Yeah.
Right, 1 to 4 units is where the good government subsidized Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans are at.
Yeah.
And if you're probably going to go through some rough patches and make some beginner mistakes. I mean, make it on a smaller property,
Right.
just dollar figure,
Yeah.
right? A lot of guys trying to sell that hope and dream of you can own a 200 unit apartment, just
Right.
buy my course, right?
Right.
I'm coming at it from a more a position of like, yeah, you could technically do that, but it's like a 0.01% of happening.
Right.
Right? I'd rather see people just get experience and then buy maybe another, maybe buy another, and then kind of scale from there.
Sure. Sure. And something else that comes when people talk about real estate, or even when they ask me about real estate, Lane, is, I guess how they invest. People have, Roth IRAs, they've got 401ks, and they ask me, Ron, should I pull money out of this to buy a property, or should I invest in this instead of, real estate? Where do you kind of come down on that in terms of, people at work, they've got, these, investments that are tied to the market, 529 plans, Roth IRAs, blah, blah, blah. Where do you fall on that in terms of, is that, a reasonable investment? Is real estate much better? Unpack that for us some.
Yeah, I mean, so kind of before we get into like the whole 401k, TSP, Roth IRA stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, there's all these like paper investments, mutual funds, packaged Wall Street products. In my opinion, they're kind of garbage, right? I mean, this whole system's engineered to kind of take a third of all your earnings, pocket it, and then you kind of take the good and the bad, whether it goes up or down. You kind of
Right.
take the remaining scraps. I mean, this system is engineered to keep people working at their day job till they're like 70 years old, if
Right.
that. I mean, when you own a rental property, I mean, like on my website, there's like a video where I just break down how much you make, not only just cash flow, but like mortgage pay down, tax benefits, and,
Yeah.
appreciation. And you're making like 20, 30% plus a year.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, how the heck is my like Vanguard 500 index making 4%? Like,
Right.
there's a big gap there. The heck, who took all my money? But
Right.
how else do you think they're having all these big Wall Street buildings, right? All this fluff.
Yeah, right.
They're taking it for you, right? And
Right.
this is a discussion of more like, package retail investments versus getting a little bit off the beaten path, doing it yourself, and getting more wholesale type of investments.
Sure.
You know, and then now we're gonna go into the whole retirement fund. There's these things where you can put money in, and supposedly the sell is you don't get taxed on it. But the unfortunate thing is once you put it in one of these retirement accounts, you're stuck in investing in this garbage,
Right.
right? I don't care if
Exactly.
I don't get taxed on it if I have to invest in garbage,
Right.
right? And
Exactly.
I would rather pay taxes on it today and not put it in a retirement account because I'm going to retire well before I'm 40, right?
Right.
If you're starting late, maybe you're going to retire in like 10 years. You're going to need this. You're going to want to spend the money playfully well before that retirement age of like 65, or who knows, they'll bump it up to 70 by that
Right.
time.
Yeah. Oh,
And just with all that's going on, taxes are lower today than it will be in the future.
sure.
How else are you going to pay for all this government spending and stimulus? And I don't know about you, but I'm planning on making a lot more money in the future, right?
Yes.
Most modules are
Absolutely.
built off this idea: when you retire, you shrivel up and die, and you live off like spaghetti and noodles the rest
Right.
of your life.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I wrote a whole article that's on my website,
Yeah.
simplepassivecashflow.com/QRP. The whole argument against why would you want to do a retirement account?
Right.
None of my friends are doing it.
Right.
Never take financial advice from some people who are not financially free. That's a
You're,
rule.
yeah. That's a good. That's good best practice, actually. And who to take your advice from. Exactly. And certainly not these guys out here with these $20,000 courses, right?
Yeah,
Don't be like I was at one point in time, right?
yeah.
Spent $3,000 over that stupid stuff. Um, Lane, how do you analyze a deal? How do you analyze whether a real estate deal is going to be good, or it's going to be what you intend for it to be, which is to be profitable? With that, how do you analyze the deal? How do you analyze a good tenant? And just walk us through some of your process, or kind of your thinking there.
Yeah, so we go after properties that we call workforce housing.
Sure.
So these aren't your high end, these aren't your low end war zone type of properties. And one of our big criteria is we want a cash flow, right?
Sure.
Imagine that. You buy a property
Yeah.
that
Right.
actually
A
like makes
novel
you
idea.
money every month, right?
Right.
So we don't invest in places like California, Hawaii, New
Right.
York, Seattle. Like they don't cash flow. So one of a quick and dirty way of determining this is something we call the rent to value ratio.
Sure.
So you can just hop on Zillow. Zillow's not the best resource, but it's good enough.
Yeah.
and you can look at a purchase price on a property, and you take the monthly rents divided by the purchase price.
Sure.
So a lot of places we're buying, you can pick up a nice single family home that is $100,000 that rents for $1,000 a month.
Sure.
So the math is 1,000 divided by 100,000. That's 1%
Hmm.
rent to value ratio, and that's the threshold where you like to be and higher.
Sure.
So
So,
like that first property I bought was $2,200 a month rent divided by the purchase price 350,000, well below 1%.
yeah.
No bueno, doesn't work.
Yeah. So yeah. So you want to be at least 1% or greater, and obviously the higher that percentage, the better, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Exactly. So yeah. So just make sure folks understand that simple math for
right.
sure.
And yeah, I mean, I didn't know that my first couple of years of investing, but you know, you
Right.
you tend to get better over time, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, when I did something somewhat similar to you, I had a family member, and here in Memphis, Lane, there was the Mike Tyson fight. This was back in 2002. So I was a junior in college, and we actually I didn't acquire the property. What we did was we kind of established, I guess, what really ended up becoming kind of the first Airbnb. There were celebrities coming here to Memphis for the fight. Um, it was Tyson Lennox Lewis, and
The
they
ear
were.
biting one.
I know this was well after. This was
Oh, okay.
Tyson was kind of towards his end. Lennox Lewis had won a few fights, but he had a kind of short run. But they were here in Memphis, and it was a huge fight. There were celebrities all over the place, and they were looking for places, obviously, to stay. And Memphis is somewhat limited in that, and so kind of within the core of the city, came across a property just driving by and called the owner. I mean, it was duplex type property, two beds, two baths, I guess, on each side, and he was trying to sell it, and we just went to him and just said, hey, would you let us rent it for a month? What would you need, to be able to do that? So he gave us a number. We knew we could go get that from, someone coming to rent it, and we rented it out, and we had a huge spread, right? I mean, it was dirt cheap. He's like, oh,
Hmm.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, and we didn't have to really do anything or put any money into it. We just advertised it, and of course, then we made some phone calls and say, hey, we've got this available, and we were just renting it week, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah. Yeah, a
and
lot of people like to do that. They're short-term rentals.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Not I look, I'm not gonna say it doesn't work, but it's just a lot of work,
yeah,
and it's I prefer to be, if like if the Bell curve of America's population is, centered around the center where people are paying $700 to $1,200 a month for rent, that's where I
right,
want to be.
yeah,
There's a lot of places like short-term rentals, like vacation rentals, Airbnbs. People like to get into student rentals,
sure,
um, military housing. I tend to stay around like blue collar jobs, workforce housing. And I think in the pandemic, like our collections are pretty much unfazed through the whole thing. Like I
sure,
don't care about pandemics.
yeah,
Like it doesn't impact the type of investments I go after.
sure.
But yeah, your Airbnb guy. Now you could probably buy those things for a penny on the dollar, since all these guys are just out screwed, right?
Yeah, they're all they got their tail tucked between their legs right now because
Yeah,
I mean that market got blown up, without question. Except for I guess maybe on the Florida coast, I mean, there seem to be people returning there, but for 3 or 4 months you couldn't do a damn thing, with
right.
some of those things, and so it kind of goes back a lot of what you talk about, which is that recession proof type of investment where, like you say, if you're in that bell-shaped curve and you're kind of more in the center, um, you're probably going to be in a better place than if you operate in the extremes, right? And so it's something for MYB for you guys to think about as you look to get into real estate. And so, let's get into Lane a little bit about again how you help your clients. You mentioned offering courses. For those that are in NYB that might be interested, how could they get involved with your courses, and how can they find it, and and maybe consider doing it actually with someone that's doing it legitly and not these other joker assholes that are out here.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to spend 20, 30 grand for it.
There you
I
go,
mean,
right
well,
off top.
what I tell most guys
We
is
like
just
it
like,
already.
just go watch, just go listen to my free podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're looking to do single family homes, my first 12 podcasts are kind of all about that,
Yes.
you know? And then there's this concept of like, well, how much do you value your time, right? Like most of my clients are making over 100 grand a year. They don't
Right.
have time to listen to 50 podcasts,
Right.
right? And they want to just jump into a course, or more importantly, they just want to just work with the people that we trust,
Sure.
and just we kind of just hold their hand through the whole process. And so we have incubator groups for that. But yeah, if you're a guy out there just scraping by, barely has $5,000 to your name, just check out the free stuff on the podcast,
There you
and
go.
the website.
Yeah. No, most definitely. Um, yeah, Lane, a fun question for you. If I were to show up there in Hawaii and I've got $100,000 or 100 million, I'm sorry, $100 million in cash, right? No strings attached. Just I pull up the armored truck and yeah, here, Lane, here you go. Here's $100 million for you. How would you use that and why?
Well, I have a certain number in my head that can provide me a pretty nice life, and I can double and triple it, and it's a lot nicer life.
Sure.
Um, that would certainly get me over that number. So I would invest in certain things that are very completely recession proof, non-correlated with the economy, like triple net leases, like buying the land underneath dollar stores or Walgreens.
Sure.
Life settlement investments are another thing that guys like Warren Buffett will base his business on, that
Yeah.
I will invest in. It's a lower return, but it's guarantee money,
Sure. Yeah,
guarantee.
yeah, guaranteed and very good residual for sure. Yeah, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, speaking of that, what is your thoughts on land, Lane? I know you work with a lot, with property, but in terms of land investing, and that's something that I've gotten more into in the last, let's just call it 18 months, where I've done, some more land investing. A lot of it's been with, of course, being here in the South, the United States. There's, been a lot of transition of, just people who transition life, right? They die, they leave, land, right? And the other family members are not around. They don't care about it. Some cases they didn't even know the person had it. And I've been able to acquire it and make some moves that way. So, what are your thoughts on land and people getting involved and investing in land?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think like whatever you do, you got to kind of learn it and make it your niche, right? Like I stay in my niche, which is workforce housing, apartments, and mobile homes.
Sure.
If you land is your thing, cool, right? Rock out on it. You're more of an active investor in it anyway.
Yeah.
But like as far as investments, I look at it from three perspectives. Like first, it needs the cash flow,
Sure.
right? Imagine that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit,
I'd say
imagine
again,
that.
another novel idea.
Needs to make money every month.
Right.
Okay. Well, yeah, land doesn't do that, right? It doesn't put money in your pocket every month. It's not. And then the other two is it leverageable,
Sure.
and is it a real asset? So this certainly is a real asset. So it checks that box,
Sure.
but it's not really leverageable. You know, bank's not really going to give you a loan for land.
No, no bank's really going to finance it. Most of what I do with land is either, I'm able to lease it out. So for instance, here you got, farmers and things like that. It's a great place, when you talk about residual income, um, leasing it out to a farmer who's either needed to extend, if it's nearby where they can extend, the land usage that they need, it's tremendous. Of course, you can always flip it. And there's some different ways, like you say, to leverage it, but not as much, like you say, from a debt standpoint with a bank. So
Yeah,
trying to leverage it with, utilizing a debt vehicle to do it, you're exactly right. That's not going to happen.
yeah. I mean,
And if
I
it
think
does
what you're
happen,
doing is great. I
yeah,
mean, it's just I think the listener needs to realize that whatever you do in life, you can't just dabble in a whole bunch of stuff,
right,
right? You got to figure out what's your highest and best use and kind of go all in on that. And yeah, for a lot of my guys, it's at their day job investing passively
yeah,
in real estate on the side. But I think what you're kind of working on there is more of an active role.
sure.
A lot of different ways to make money, and that's one of them.
Yep, absolutely, without question. Um, you know, and Lane, you've given us some great things to think about, some great content. what are one or two best practices? You've talked about your career thus far. One or two best practices that have worked really well for you that you think will work for others.
I mean, my buying rental properties was very slow in the beginning. I
Yeah.
mean, first one took me a couple years to buy, and then the next one, after a few years, it was one every year, and then when it felt like it wasn't just watching grass grow. But it took me, it's 2015, 16 was when I had 11 rental properties.
Sure.
And people don't realize it. This is not a get rich quick thing. This is a get rich surely thing.
Yeah. I
And
like that.
and yeah, I mean that's one thing, and another thing, just something a little more tactical for folks. Um, just kind of making progress each day, like time blocking, something I've been working on lately. Because I have kind of all day to do whatever I need to do,
Yeah.
all 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
But spending it time consciously on the things that are actually going to move the needle forward. Most people, they focus on the wrong things.
Sure. Yeah, they do. Yeah, and the focus piece is a big thing, and we talk about this a lot on this podcast. You talk about it a lot. The focus mindset on your podcast is, you've got to focus on the right things, and yeah, you can't be a jack of all trades. I mean, you've got to have a niche, and you've got to specialize in something. Become really good at something. And so, NYB Community Lanes, sharing some good nuggets with us on that. Just become really good at something, whatever that is. Take one thing, become really good at it, and then go to something else as you become really good at something, and then follow that. But a lot of folks listening to this lane are, they try to be jacks of all trades. They want to dibble and dab, like you
Yeah.
said, in a little bit of everything, and then they hope something jumps off that they can ride the wave. But what happens is nothing really jumps off because they never really invest, starting with themselves into it. They dibble and dab, and when it doesn't jump the way they want it to jump, they jump to something else.
Yeah, shiny object syndrome, right? And
Right.
and everything has a point where you put in maybe even like 2 hours of work or 200 hours of work, and there's always a barrier that splits the children from the adults.
Yeah.
And it's all everything that's going to happen. And in fact, you want that to happen, because when you finally make it past that point, that's the reason why any other joker can't do it.
Right.
But what you got to figure out what that thing is. What are you going to invest the 2 hours or 200 hours in? And I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on this, Ron? Like,
Yeah.
I've always kind of thought that maybe you should have kind of some kind of a mentor or informal mentor that kind of knows you
Sure.
and knows the industry that you're going into or the business that you're going to go into, and kind of advise you the right way.
Yeah.
How many podcasters do this, and they're just horrible speakers. They're just boring too, right?
Right.
And it's like, bro, maybe you should do more like write an article,
Right. 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 Yeah. Start a blog.
Yeah, because that podcast isn't for you, right?
Right. No,
Or
I'm with you
it,
there. I think that having a mentor is tremendous. Of course, I have one. Specifically, and I think it's one thing to have a mentor, but then have a mentor in kind of various areas of your walk, right?
mhm,
But like you say, you have to have someone that understands you, understands your industry, is willing to obviously be truthful and transparent with you,
yeah,
and can walk that walk along with you as a guide, as opposed to there's not just someone that's just telling you what to do
yeah,
at every step, but helping you realize your pathway on your own, and then helping
mhm,
guide that and providing that advice. I think it's critical, in
yeah.
my opinion.
Because you and I are in a lot of masterminds, and we've been to a lot of these like kind of like free meetups, and there's always some guy that has some stupid idea, and then nobody knows them, right? Nobody has a
Right.
vested interest. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's a good idea.
Right.
You should do that. You're amazing."
Right.
But we got similar attitudes, right? It's like, man, that's the dumbest
Right.
thing I ever heard in my life. I hope he doesn't waste more than 5 hours doing that thing.
Right. Or more than
And then
$5.
that guy spends 2 years screwing around with that idea,
Right.
you
Yeah. 2 years
know?
and $200,000 later.
Yeah. And that, I'm sure there's a guy listening right now that, I don't know. That's why, Gary Vaynerchuk says self-awareness is one of the most important things.
Right.
Hopefully if you have it, you're realizing, well, shit, maybe I was that person who had that stupid idea, and everybody said it was a good idea too,
Right.
just because it was just that atmosphere where nobody said anything, right? You
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
have a mentor that was critical.
Yeah, you have to have a mentor that's going to tell you, when the king doesn't have any pants on, right?
Yeah.
That's, at the end of the day, that's what has to happen. And sometimes people surround themselves with just yes people, and it can be a detriment. So you got to surround yourself with people that will challenge your critical thinking, and then present other options for you to consider. And then, like you say, that understands you and understands your goals and where you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
And
And the
so,
business.
yeah,
And the
and the
business
business, right.
too. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to be in real estate and you don't have a real estate mentor, and a real estate mentor is not just someone that posts on Facebook about real estate. A real estate mentor is someone who actually has done deals, right? Someone who's actually done it and has generated, to the point of where you want to get to, right? And I think sometimes people just get hung up with, they see a guy post a property on Instagram and they think, oh, let me ask him, but he hasn't done a deal, or she
Yeah.
hasn't done a deal.
That's just what their programs tells them to do. So
Right.
that
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, Lane, this has been fun, man. I really appreciate you taking time to share with the audience. Of course, in the show notes will be all your contact info. But what's the best way if someone wants to follow up with you or connect with you? What's the best way to do that?
yeah, check out my podcast, Simple Passive Cash Flow, and then check out the website, simplepassivecashflow.com. And then, yeah, if you guys are looking to pick up your first rental, just listen to the first dozen podcasts.
Yeah.
That's the least you could do, dude. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Right. There you go.
yeah.
Yeah, the least you could do. And so, matter of fact, we're going to have in the show notes, there's a link to the podcast where you can go. And like Lane said, dude, just listen to the first 12 episodes. You get what you need, and then go get started, and then get yourself a mentor, right? And if you're serious, connect with Lane, and he and his team can be a resource for you. So, excellent stuff. Lane, thank you so much, man. I appreciate, I know busy times out here now, but definitely like what you're doing, want to dig into more of what you're doing, and look forward to talking again soon. Love to have you back as we get updates, as everybody gets through all the craziness, and we'll kind of see where things are.
Yeah. Appreciate you for having me, Ron.
Yep. Thanks, Lane. We appreciate it. All right, simplepassivecashflow.com. Make sure you go there, MYB community. Do that right now when you get done listening to the podcast, and reach out to Lane, connect with him on social media. You'll see that there in the show notes, and let him know you heard him right here on the Minding Your Business podcast. Listen, I'm going to get out of here. Go do what you do. Be great at it. And remember, we all want to grow 3 areas that we all have in common, which is we want to be better for ourselves, better for our families, and better for our communities. Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast. Go be great.